This is the first Sunday in Advent for the first year. And remember, Advent is our New Year's. So happy New Year's, everyone. This year we're moving on to the stories from the book of Matthew. Matthew is a different flavor. We've just come off of Luke, and Luke is all about social justice, getting things done. Matthew is much more of an internal journey. It's get yourself right first, and then you can kind of go into the world and do what you need to do. Always the first week in Advent, we look at what we know is the mini apocalypse, is what it's called, the apocryphal writing that talks about what the end time is going to be. And we look at Matthew, and he's very, very direct about how one will be taken and one will be left behind, or two women will be working at a mill and one will be left behind. What this isn't is rapture theology. That doesn't exist. In fact, rapture theology didn't even get invented until the mid 1800s in rural America. It is not connected to that. What Matthew was getting into was that one person is going to be part of what's going on in the new world and the new creation that God is creating. One might not be entered into that. So if you're thinking any of this left behind business, just get that out of your mind altogether. So Jesus is talking in this passage in Matthew about the end time, what it's going to look like, what it could potentially be, and not knowing when to be ready. And this is one of the things that is so hard for anybody, Christians in particular. We want to know. We want to have a sense. And if you look through the entire history of church theology, a lot of it is driven by the absolute need for people to be able to pinpoint when things are happening, what's going to happen. We want to know. It's part of who we are as a species. In fact, if you look at just Google end of the world, most, not exclusively Christian, but most predictions are based on the Christian church. And people are always pointing out like why we see all these horrible things going on. And say, yeah, we see more now because we've got media, not because there's more going on. So when you're looking for a sign, that's not what Jesus was talking about. That's not what the gospel writers were talking about. Be prepared, be ready. And what does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean waiting by the door for someone to come and pick you up, even though that's a metaphor that's being used. It means prepare ourselves. Remember, this is Matthew's journey. So Matthew is talking about the internal us, how we get ourselves ready for the role we have to play in the new world that Jesus is trying to create. So he says the thief is not going, or the owner would never know when the thief was coming. Well, it sounds like an odd story, but the whole idea is that we have to be in a state of readiness for whatever. And readiness is not sitting and waiting. Readiness is us being ready. It's the internal drive. Again, Jesus gave us metaphors, gave us images of what to do, how to go about it. And fresh off of Luke, we were able to look at all the activity that was being done to prepare us, that we have to take care of the poor, we have to take care of the sick, we have to take care of the dying, we have to not worship money as opposed to people. We have to make ourselves better. And this is the journey that we're supposed to be on. The first Sunday of Advent sets us up, essentially. You cannot begin a journey without having some idea where you're going. And that's why we have to talk about this right from the get-go. What in us, what in each of us has to grow? What do we need to get rid of as behavior that is not going to be helpful to us? This is not looking around and waiting. The writer talks about the image of Noah as well, and how they were partying right up into the end. People were getting married and drinking and having a good time right up until most translations have flood, but actually the word is cataclysm that they use in the actual original translation. So before the horrible things happened, people did not know. And there's a stress on living for personal pleasure as opposed to living to help others. See, all of these little bits are clues about how we're supposed to adapt our lives, how we're supposed to adapt our beings, how we're supposed to raise our children. It's not holding our breath and waiting for something horrible to happen. It's recognizing that the horrible things are going to happen anyway, but there's still something more that we are asked to be part of. This is preparation, this is Advent, this is waiting. This is finding out what it is that this new year is going to bring to us, what new parts of our development are going to be there. And not to obsess about what the end is like, but just kind of get a feeling like this is where eventually we will be heading. So now that Advent has begun, we start the journey again. We start the story where we're going to be looking at John the Baptist and what he had to say. We're going to be looking at Mary, and more specifically Joseph this year, and what was going on for him. What is it that is promised? It's far more than the birth of a baby. What is the promise of the life change that we're going to have? That is what we're preparing for as Advent goes forward. So as you read Matthew this week and you look at all the imagery and you talk about people being taken from their situations, people being changed, about not being aware, and the request that we're meant to be alert and looking around to always know what's going on. Don't treat that as simply a private journey that has no social outcome, because it's kind of defeating of the purpose. Matthew is not interested in you only staying in yourself, just that you prepare yourself first so that you're better able to be there to help others. As always, Advent's a wonderful time, so please enjoy it. And as we move forward, find out new things that the birth of Christ can give to you. We start our journey now.